We are all creative beings, every single one of us, with superpowers beyond our wildest imaginations. So go out and use them to create a life you love. Welcome. You are listening to the Create, Play, Live podcast, and I'm your host, Nanette Saylor. If you've been listening along with me as we've gotten going on this journey, you've noticed that I've had people with me. I've had guests. And today, we're going to do things a little differently. Today, I'm going to have a conversation with you about the word play. And my hope for you is that by the time we are through, you are going to know in no uncertain terms that play is not a dirty word. It is not reserved just for first graders on the playground. And it is absolutely necessary for us as adults who want to live extraordinary lives. So welcome to today's episode of the Create, Play, Live podcast and our adventure into the world of play. So to get us started, I think it's important that we all understand what the dictionary defines as play. Because when I go out into the world and ask adults, what does it mean to play? They usually have to stop for a minute and think about it. Most of the time, they come up with something that's a competitive game, or it's something that isn't open-ended. It's not just random. As adults, we pretty much have rules and defined ways of doing just about everything. So let me go ahead and share with you what dictionary.com has to say about the word play. Play is to engage in an activity for enjoyment and recreation. Notice it's a verb in this sense, to engage in an activity for enjoyment and recreation. And then they go on to say, rather than, and this is the critical part, rather than a serious or practical purpose. So in order for play to be play, what I like to call pure play, the activity must be something engaged in for enjoyment and recreation without a seriousness or a practical purpose. Now, of course, most of us as adults would consider that to be an absolute waste of time. What do you mean? How is it possible for me to go out into the day, take my valuable time, and do something that has no purpose? In fact, most of the adults I know can't even begin to fathom what that might look like. How is it possible that you could have an activity or be engaged in an activity that doesn't have a purpose? What does that mean to not have a purpose? Right? Interesting question. So I went on to look to see how else might we frame this word. And the synonyms I found were to amuse yourself. Now that's fun. What might you do to amuse yourself today? To entertain oneself, to enjoy oneself, to have fun. Most people who know me know that I use the word fun a lot. It's something that, without me even knowing it, made its way into my vocabulary on a regular basis. I don't know that I can even tell you when the shift occurred, when I started to see things as being fun and light and easy. But I can tell you that it is a significant shift in my way of being in the world, and that play, engaging in play, purely for the intent of enjoying myself, was a significant part of me being able to shift from the recovering stress junkie that many of you knew 20 years ago to being this person who today spends my days in ease and joy and fun, lots of fun. So how else do we define play, or what other synonyms might be associated with play? Things that came up are relax. Ooh, that's a sweet one. Occupy oneself. Divert oneself. Now that's interesting. To frolic, to frisk, to romp, or to caper. When was the last time you used the words frolic, frisk, romp, or caper? Pretty entertaining, aren't they? I wonder what it would look like for me to run outside and frolic, frisk, romp, or caper. Can you imagine that in your own mind's eye? Me running around, frolic, frisk, romping, and capering? Better yet, what would it look like for you to run around, frolicking, frisking, romping, or capering? I'm not even sure capering is a word, but that's okay, because we're playing today. We are playing today. If you've been hanging around in my circles for a while, you might know that I am a huge fan of Christine Cain's Word of the Year. I use the practice every year, have been using it, I think, 6, 7, maybe 8 years. And this year, I adopted my Word of the Year to be play. No surprise. Obviously, you know, I give a lot of attention to what it means to create. And when I started to look at where do we get our inspiration, how is it that we are called to create? What are the things that we use to bring into the things that are our creations? How do we find them? How do we see them? I was led down this path of curiosity. And as I was led down the path of exploring, well, what does it mean to be curious? I started to observe children, and I started to watch myself, and I started to watch other people who attended my workshops, who would pick up a material they hadn't used in years and years, and they would hold it in their hand, and they'd explore it, and then they'd begin to use it on the paper. And then maybe they'd add glue, and then maybe paint, and then something else. And as the time went by, even just in the course of a short 30, 45, maybe 60 minutes, they got more and more and more willing to experiment. And they got more and more and more willing to try with a new material, to do something that they hadn't done before. Where in the beginning of the workshop, they might have been resistant to the idea of, oh no, I can't possibly use paints. I only color, or I only use pencil. By the time we were 30 minutes in, they were asking to try with the paints. So I was wondering, where did that come from? How do we get back to that as adults? Because it's when we get back to the possibility that we could try something new that magic happens. Magic happens. And yes, of course, sometimes mistakes happen too. Sometimes we make a mess. And what we learn is that most of the time, it's not the end of the world. We can simply clean it up, put all the stuff away, maybe even throw it away, because we'll have an opportunity to start again tomorrow. Play. It lifts me up to talk about it. And it also incenses me a little bit that in our culture, we have come to determine that our children are better served by learning the rules of a test than they are in free play on the playground. Over the next few years, it's my biggest hope that one of the things that we are discovering now is that children must have time to explore and to play in a free environment where no one tells them what to do. So, interestingly enough, this past week, I had the opportunity to be interviewed for a new book and a new series called Daily Success. This new series, Daily Success, has a word of the day. And I was invited to participate. And of course, what word did you think I chose? Of course, I chose the word play. So I thought I'd share with you what I scripted for my definition of play, having done a little bit of digging. I just shared with you what dictionary.com just said. I did a little bit of digging and you just heard me talk about what I think is so important for children, that they are able to play with their own freedom, their own free will, nobody telling them how it's supposed to be. So I sat down and I wrote my own little definition of the word play, adding a couple of things to what you heard earlier. And what I have concluded is that play is an activity without intention or purpose. I will borrow that from dictionary.com. It is chosen of free will. It is directed by us, meaning nobody's leaning over your shoulder telling you exactly how to do it. And it gives us pleasure. It must be something that gives us pleasure. To play is to experience pure joy. And joy is at the top of our emotional set point scale. In my mind, we should all be striving to experience more moments of joy in our lives. Because what I have learned to be true is that we cannot experience joy and sadness in the same moment. We cannot experience joy and anger, joy and depression, joy and frustration in the same moment. So if we want to have more joy-filled lives, then we need to create opportunities to experience and to feel more joy. And the more of those we have, the less of the other we will have. Play connects us to the experience of pure joy. What I know to be true is most adults worry too much about finding the right way to play. There is no right way. There are no rules. There is you experiencing, experimenting, touching, feeling, doing, dancing, just letting yourself be without worry. We all know that songline, dance like no one's watching. That is play. Play is a process of trial and error. We use the blue paint and decide it's too dark, so then we try with the yellow. And then maybe we mix the two together, and oh my goodness, we discover that now we have green. Or if we put too much yellow in, now it's lime. Or too much blue, now it's too dark. Or maybe it's a beautiful combination that we never expected. Or maybe we choose not to mix the colors completely, and now what we have is swirl. Even more fun. We engage our curiosity when we play. And we do that by asking the question, what if? What if I put mustard and ketchup in my soup? What if I draw on the counter? What if I put my shoes on the wrong feet? What if I wear my pants on my head? What if I color my hair purple? What if I pierce my nose? And on and on and on. Every opportunity we have to expand possibility comes when we invite ourselves to do something that we don't know what the result will be. Now, certainly as adults, the longer we live, the more experience we have, the more likely it is that we have seen lots of results. So no surprise that our worry about the potential outcomes stops us in our tracks. All the more reason why we should be playing with wild abandon as often as possible. It invites us to step into the place of inspiration and belief in magic. So easy to get jaded in our lives. So easy to only remember all the times things didn't work. But what about the ones when they did? Play is experimentation. Play is exploration. We wander when we play, and we wonder. We go places we've never gone, we ask questions we've never asked, and we have no preconceived notions about the outcomes. Play is not a competitive sport. There is no winner and no loser when we play. We play for play's sake. It is not entertained to achieve a goal or a specific reward. The activity itself is the reward. Play is not a waste of your time, my dear friend, adults. It is so not a waste of your time. Play, in my mind, is a requirement of a life well lived. So as I wrap up today, I want to invite you to commit to 1 hour this week. 1 hour this week where you engage in an activity that has no defined purpose, that has no specific reward other than your pure entertainment and delight, and that it is not competitive. And you may not follow instructions on the back of the box. So I hope you will heed this invitation. It is my deepest desire to spread this message far and wide. And yes, it may feel like I was preaching today. And yes, I am. Because I don't want to see any more adults hanging their heads in this sorrowful, worn-out, frustrated place. There is not any reason for any of us to exist that way. We all have the ability to return to the joy that we found as children at play. I invite you, in fact, I implore you to go out and give it a try. Then please, please, please share with me what happens for you as a result. And promise me that if your first adventure feels uncomfortable, because I know it will, that you won't give it up, that you'll commit again next week to another hour, and the week after that, because I promise you, at some point, you will begin to turn the corner from being uncomfortable in this new space to being delighted by this new space and this new way of being. I hope to share that day with you. And that, my friends, is today's episode of the Create, Play, Live podcast. I'm so glad you've been here with me today. Do share with me your favorite ways to play. I would love to cultivate a list that goes on for miles so that we can continue to invite more and more and more people to give up their need to adult and to jump into this space of play. Until next time, I hope you'll heed this call to play more. Let your curiosity lead and follow your heart. You are listening to the Create, Play, Live show, where women come together to share how curiosity and creativity lead them to extraordinary lives. I'm your host, Nanette Saylor, and I'm honored to share the mic with some truly amazing women who have asked and answered the question, what if we stop adulting and live every day with the curiosity of a child at play? And these enlightening conversations will invite you to let go of outdated standards, make your own rules, and give yourself permission to play more than ever before. You have the power to create your life. Spend some time with us and you'll learn to see life through new eyes and challenge yourself to new possibilities. We may not solve the world's problems, but we will get you to think differently about your own. Come play with us. Listen and subscribe at createplaylive.com.